Hello, everyone. Spirit House here. Today, I will be reading the Book of Enoch, and the English translation was done. The first translation and last, pretty much, by R.H. Charles in 1917. I'm going to go over a brief part of the introduction. The introduction is basically for theology students, so I'm not going to cover the whole thing because it's 17 pages, and it's kind of long-winded. It's very interesting if that's what you're studying in depth. But I'm just going to kind of go over what the purpose of it was and which texts it was derived from. Let me go over the timelines first. There are 5 different manuscripts that it was drawn from. The main one being from an ancient Ethiopian church. I'll have to look up exactly which one that was, but it was stored there for years before it was brought to light. But the Apocalypse of Weeks, and it is the oldest pre-Maccabean portion. I'm sorry. Fragments of the Book of Noah, pre-Maccabean at the latest. The Dream Visions, which was from 165 to 161 BC. These are approximate dates, keep in mind. The Book of Heavenly Luminaries, before 110 BC. The Parables or Similitudes, circa 105 to 64 BC. And the latest portion, which is pre-Christian. So those are the 5 manuscripts that comprise the Book of Enoch. Okay, and here's I'm going to read a brief part of the introduction because I think it's relevant here. The apocalyptic literature. As the Book of Enoch is, in some respects, the most notable extant apocalyptic work outside the canonical scriptures, it will not be inappropriate to offer a few remarks here on the apocalyptic literature generally. In writing about the books which belong to this literature, Professor Burkitt, who is the professor that worked with R.H. Charles, says very pointedly that they are the most characteristic survival of what I will venture to call, with all its narrowness and incoherence, the heroic age of Jewish history, the age when the nation attempted to realize in action the part of the peculiar people of God. It ended in catastrophe, and but the nation left 2 successors, the Christian church and the rabbinical schools, each of which carried on some of the old national aims. And of the 2, it was the Christian church that was most faithful. I think in this day and age that could be argued, but anyway, it is 1917, so keep that in mind. And of the 2, it was the Christian church that was most faithful to the ideas enshrined in the apocalypses, and it did consider itself, not without some reason, to fulfill the fulfillment of those ideas. What is wanted, therefore, in study of the apocalypses is, above all, sympathy with the ideas that underlie them, and especially with the belief in the new age. And those who believe that in Christianity a new era really did dawn for us ought, I think, to have that sympathy. We study the apocalypses to learn how our spiritual ancestors hoped again that God would make all right in the end, and that we, their children, are here today studying them as an indication that their hope was not wholly unfounded. Hope is, indeed, the main underlying motive power which prompted the writers of the apocalypses. And this hope is the more intensive and ardent in that it shines forth from a background which is dark with despair. For the apocalyptists despaired of the world in which they lived, a world in which the godly were of no account, while the wicked seemed too often triumphant and prosperous. With evil everywhere around, the apocalyptists saw no hope for the world as it was. For such a world there was no remedy, only destruction. If the good were ever to triumph, it must be in a new world. Despairing, therefore, of the world around them, the apocalyptists centered their hope upon a world to come, where the righteous would come to their own and evil would find no place. It is this thought which underlies the opening words of the Book of Enoch. The words of the blessing of Enoch, the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed, quote unquote. Nowhere in this book is the essence of this hope more beautifully expressed than in the short metrical piece in the first chapter. Quote, "But with righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect, and mercy shall be upon them. And they shall all belong to God, and they shall all be prospered, and they shall all be blessed. And he will help them all, and light shall appear unto them, and he will make peace with them." First Enoch, chapter 8. In all the books belonging to this literature which have come down to us, this hope is expressed more or less vividly, nor is the dark background wanting with prophecies of coming wrath. It will, therefore, be realized that the apocalyptic literature is almost wholly concerned with the future. This is a side note for me now. I believe this is now. It is true that again and again the apocalyptic glances at the contemporary history of the world around him, to which many a cryptic reference is made, a fact which necessitates some knowledge of the history of this period, circa 200 BC to AD 100, for a full understanding of the books in question. But these references are only made with a view to comforting the oppressed and afflicted with the thought that even the most mighty of earthly powers are shortly to be overthrown by the advent of the new and glorious era, when every injustice and all the incongruities of life will be done away with, so that every reference to the present is merely a position taken up from which to point to the future. Now, since, as we have seen, the apocalyptists despair of any bettering of the present world, and therefore contemplate its destruction as a preliminary of the new order of things, they look away from this world in their visions of the future. They conceive of other worldly forces coming into play in the reconstitution of things, and of generally, and of society generally. And since these are otherworldly forces, the supernatural plays a great part in the apocalyptic literature. The supernatural coloring will often strike the reader of this literature as fantastic, and at sometimes bizarre. But this should not be permitted to obscure the reality which often lies behind these weird shadows. Mental visions are not always easily expressed in words. The seer who in a vision has received a message in some fantastic guise necessarily has the impress upon his mind of what he has seen when giving his message, and when he describes his vision, the picture he presents is, in the nature of the case, more fantastic to the ear of the hearer than to the eye of him who saw it. Allowance should be made for this, especially by us Westerners, who are so lacking in the rich imaginativeness of the East. Our love of literalness hinders the play of the imagination because we are so apt to materialize a mental picture presented by another. The apocalypses were written by and for Easterners, and we cannot do justice to them unless we remember this. But it would be best if we could get into the Eastern mind and look at things from that point of view. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I've told you the timelines and kind of, giving you a summary of what the vision that these people, our ancestors from the past, had of the future. Okay, so, and that was an overall kind of summary of apocalyptic literature, because everyone thinks of it as so dark and doom and gloom and the end of all things, but it's not the end of all things. There's never an end to all things. We are all immortal souls. It's the dimensions that we go to, the ascensions that we're expected to go to. Yes, there will be some that are left behind. There will be some that refuse to ascend and insist on staying in the lower vibrational three-dimensional state, and there's nothing that can be done about that. But our job as light workers, I believe, is to raise as many people as we can and help them become aware and help bring them along with us, into this new earth that we are creating and manifesting. So anyway, I shall begin with the book of Enoch. Chapters 1 through 5, Parable of Enoch on the future lot of the wicked and the righteous. Chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angel showed me. And from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one which is far to come. Concerning the elect I said, and took up my parable concerning them. The Holy Great One will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear from his camp, and appear in the strength of his might from the heavens of heavens, from the heaven of heavens. And all shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake. And great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be made low, and shall melt like wax before the flame. And the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, and all that is upon the earth shall perish, and there shall be judgment upon all men. But with the righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect, and mercy shall be upon them. And they shall all belong to God, and they shall be prospered, and they shall all be blessed. And he will help them all. And light shall appear unto them, and he will make peace with them. And behold, he cometh with 10,000s of his holy ones, to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the ungodly, and to convict all flesh of all the works of their ungodliness which they have ungodly committed, and of all the hard things which ungodly sinners... Excuse me while I turn the page, which doesn't want to turn right now. Okay. And of all the hard things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Chapter 2. Observe ye everything that takes place in the heavens, how they do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in heaven, how they all rise and set in order each in its season, and transgress not against their appointed order. Behold ye the earth, and give heed to the things which take place upon it from first to last, how steadfast they are, how none of these things upon earth change, but all the works of God appear to you. Behold the summer and the winter, how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew that rain lie upon it. Chapter 3. Observe and see how, in the winter, all the trees seem as though they had withered and shed all their leaves except 14 trees, which do not lose their foliage, but remain the old foliage from 2 to 3 years till the new comes. Chapter 4. And again, observe ye the days of summer, how the sun is above the earth over against it. And you seek shade and shelter by reason of the heat of the sun. And the earth also burns with growing heat. And so you cannot tread on the earth or on a rock by reason of its heat. Chapter 5. Observe ye how the trees cover themselves with green leaves and bear fruit. Wherefore give ye heed, and know with regard to all his works, and recognize how he that liveth for ever hath made them so. And all his works go on thus from year to year forever, and all the tasks which they accomplish for him, and their tasks change not, but according as God hath ordained, so it is done. And behold how the sea and the rivers in like manner accomplish and change not their tasks from his commandments. But ye have not been steadfast, nor done the commandments of the Lord. But ye have turned away and spoken proud and hard words with your impure mouths against his greatness. O ye hard-hearted, ye shall find no peace. Therefore ye shall excrete your days, and the years of your life shall perish, and the years of your destruction shall be multiplied in eternal execration, and ye shall find no mercy. In those days ye shall make your names an external execration unto all the righteous, and by you shall all who curse, and all the sinners and godless shall imprecate by you, and for you the godless there shall be a curse. And all you shall rejoice, and all the righteous, shall rejoice. There's a missing word here. And there shall be forgiveness of sins, and every mercy and peace and forbearance. There shall be salvation unto them, a goodly light. And for all of you sinners there shall be no salvation, but on you all shall abide a curse. But for the elect there shall be light and joy and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. And then there shall be bestowed upon the elect wisdom, and they shall all live and never again sin, either through ungodliness or through pride. But they who are wise shall be humble, and they shall not again transgress, nor shall they sin all the days of their life, nor shall they die of the divine anger or wrath, but they shall complete the number of days of their life, and their lives shall be increased in peace. And the years of their joy shall be multiplied in eternal gladness and peace all the days of their life. Chapter 6, which is entitled The Fall of the Angels, the Demoralization of Mankind, the Intercession of the Angels on behalf of mankind, the dooms pronounced by God on the angels, the Messianic Kingdom, a Noah fragment. Chapter 6. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Simyaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders. Simyaza, their leader, or Simyaza, Arakiba, Ramiel, Kokabeel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakahal, Asael, Armaros, Batarel, Ananel, Zachiel, Samsapiel, Satarel, Turel, Jomjael, and Sariel. These are their chiefs of tens. Chapter 7, which is entitled... wrong page. Chapter 7. All of the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men, and who men could no longer sustain them. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Chapter 8. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, the bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Simyaza taught enchantments and root cutting, Armaros the resolving of enchantments. Barachiel taught astrology, Kokabel the constellations, Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, Arachiel the signs of the earth, Shamsiel the signs of the sun, and Sariel the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. Chapter 9. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, the earth made without inhabitants cries the voice of their crying upon the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of the ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou, and all things are naked and open in thy sight. And thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Thou seest what Azazel hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Simyaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now, behold, the souls of those who have died are crying, and make their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended, and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they come to pass. And thou seest all things, and thou dost suffer them, and thou dost not say to us what we are to do to them in regard to these. Chapter 10. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One spake, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, go to Noah, and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein. And place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle, for length of days shall they not have. And no request that they or their fathers make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf, for they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said unto Michael, go bind Simyaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanliness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations. And destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end. And let the plant of righteousness and truth appear. And it shall prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And then shall all the righteous escape, and shall live till they beget thousands of children. And all the days of their youth and their old age shall they complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be tilted in righteousness, and shall all be planted with trees and full of blessings. And all desirable trees shall be planted on it, and they shall plant vines on it. And the vines which they plant thereon shall yield wine in abundance. And as for all the seed which is sown thereon, each measure of it shall bear 1,000. And each measure of olives shall yield 10 presses of oil. And cleanse thou the earth from all oppression, and from all unrighteousness, and from all sin, and from all godlessness, and all the uncleanness that is wrought upon the earth destroy from off the earth. And all the children of men shall become righteous, and all nations shall offer adoration, and shall praise me, and all shall worship me. And the earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, and from all sin, and from all punishment, and from all torment. And I will never again send them upon it from generation to generation and forever. Chapter 11. And in those days I will open the store chambers of blessing which are in the heaven, so as to send them down upon the earth over the work and labor of the children of men. And truth and peace shall be associated together throughout all the days of the world and throughout all the generations of men. Chapter 12, titled Dream Vision of Enoch, his intercession for Azazel and the fallen angels, and his announcement to them of their first and final doom. Before these things, Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of men knew where he was hidden, and where he abode, and what had become of him. And his activities had to do with the watchers, and his days were with the holy ones. And I, Enoch, was blessing the Lord of majesty and the King of the ages, and lo, the watchers called me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of the heaven who have left the high heaven to holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, and have done as the children of earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives. Ye have wrought great destruction on the earth. Quote, ye have brought great destruction on the earth, and ye shall have no peace nor forgiveness of sin. And inasmuch as they delight themselves in their children, the murder of their beloved ones shall they see, and over the destruction of their children shall they lament, and shall make supplication unto eternity, but mercy and peace shall ye not attain. Unquote. Chapter 13. And Enoch went and said to Azazel, Azazel, thou shalt have no peace. A severe sentence has gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds, and thou shalt not have toleration nor request grant to thee, because of the unrighteousness which thou hast taught, and because of all the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which thou hast shown to men. Then I went and spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid, and fearing and trembling seized them. And they besought me to draw up a petition for them, that they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven. For from thenceforward they could not speak with him, nor lift up their eyes to heaven for shame of their sins for which they had been condemned. Then I wrote out their petition, and the prayer in regard to their spirits and their deeds individually, and in regard to their requests that they should have forgiveness and length of days. And I went off and sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, to the south of the west of Hermon. I read their petition till I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me, and I saw visions of chastisement. And a voice came bidding me, I to tell it to the sons of heaven, and reprimand them. And when I awaked, I came unto them, and they were all sitting gathered together, weeping, in Abel-Jael, which is between Lebanon and Sinacer, with their faces covered. And I recounted before them all the visions which I had seen in sleep, and I began to speak the words of righteousness, and to reprimand the heavenly watchers. Chapter 14. The book of the words of righteousness, and of the reprimand of the eternal watchers, in accordance with the command of the Holy Great One in that vision. I saw in my sleep what I will now say with a tongue of flesh and with the breath of my mouth, which the Great One has given to men to converse therewith and understand within the heart. As he has created and given to man the power of understanding the word of wisdom, so hath he created me also and given me the power of reprimanding the watchers, the children of heaven. I wrote out your petition, and in my vision it appeared thus, that your petition will not be granted unto you throughout all the days of eternity, and that judgment has been finally passed upon you. Yea, your petition will not be granted unto you. And from henceforth you shall not ascend into heaven until all eternity. And in bonds of the earth the decree has gone forth to bind you for all the days of the world. And that previously you shall have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and ye shall have no pleasure in them, but they shall fall before you by the sword. And your petition on their behalf shall not be granted, nor yet on your own, even though you weep and pray and speak all the words contained in the writing which I have written. And the vision was shown to me thus, behold, in the vision clouds invited me, and a mist summoned me. And the course of the stars and the lightning sped and hastened me. And the winds in the vision caused me to fly and lifted me upward and bore me into heaven. And I went in till I drew nigh to a wall which is built of crystals and surrounded by tongues of fire. And it began to affright me. And I went into the tongues of fire and drew nigh to a large house which was built of crystals. And the walls of the house were like a tessellated floor made of crystals, and its groundwork was of crystal. Its ceiling was like a path of the stars and the lightnings, and between them were fiery cherubim, and their heaven was clear as water. A flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its portals blazed with fire. And I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice. There were no delights of life therein. Fear covered me, and trembling got hold upon me. And as I quaked and trembled, I fell upon my face. And I beheld a vision, and lo, there was a second house greater than the former. And the entire portal stood open before me, and it was built of flames of fire. And in every respect it so excelled in splendor and magnificence and extent that I cannot describe to you its splendor and its extent. And its floor was of fire, and above it were lightning and the path of the stars. And its ceiling was also flaming fire. And I looked and saw therein a lofty throne. Its appearance was as crystal, and the wheels thereof as the shining sun, and there was the vision of cherubim. And from underneath the throne came streams of flaming fire, so that I could not look thereon. And the great glory sat thereon. And his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. None of the angels could enter and could behold his face by reason of the magnificence and glory, and no flesh could behold him. The flaming fire was round about him, and a great fire stood before him, and none around could draw nigh him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, yet he needed no counselor. And the most holy ones who were nigh to him did not leave by night nor depart from him. And until then I had been prostrate on my face, trembling. And the Lord called me with his own mouth, and said to me, Come hither, Enoch, and hear my words. And one of the holy ones came to me and waked me, and he made me rise up and approach the door, and I bowed my face downwards. So I'm going to stop there, and on the next video, I'll start with chapter 15 of the book of Enoch. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have enjoyed it, please hit the like button, and if you feel so inclined, share and subscribe. I do accept donations, and I appreciate them greatly, but they are not necessary. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I love you, and I'll see you on the next video.